Hello children. So far we have learned about three important concepts and the questions based on those concepts which were repeatedly asked in board examinations. So our first question, our first video was on the major factors promoted the sense of nationalism in India. Then after that, in our second video, we have learned about the limitations of civil disobedience movement. And in next video, we learned about the events led to the Salt March and civil disobedience movement in 1930. And today we'll be learning about what are the main differences between non-cooperation movement and civil disobedience movement. So the question could be asked differentiate between non-cooperation movement and civil disobedience movement. The question can be framed like, what are the differences between non-cooperation movement and civil disobedience movement? So I have prepared some points, around 5 to 6 points. Those points, children, in short, you can learn now and you can also explain as per your capacity. First, you should understand which points you are supposed to mention for this question. This question is being asked for 5 marks. Okay, a long type question answer. So for this question, the point number 1, first point, you are supposed to mention when these movements began. Like non-cooperation movement began in January 1921 and the civil disobedience movement began in March 1930. That started with Gandhiji's Salt March. That would be your point number 1. And point number 2, you must mention what were the backdrops. What was the scenario before starting of NCM? NCM in short I have mentioned, non-cooperation movement. And which things were responsible for this. So before that, the situation was worse, economical situation in India was worse because of the First World War effect was there. And the Rowlatt Act was also passed against the Indian nationalists. They were imprisoned without any trial. And this notorious, infamous incident happened called Jallianwala Bagh tragedy. And at the same time, the Muslim community had an issue about Khalifa. How Khalifa was insulted by the British. The Khalifa was the emperor or the spiritual head of Turkey, Ottoman Turk. So at the end of First World War, Khalifa was also humiliated by the British. So these were the reasons behind the first movement called non-cooperation movement, which began in January 1921. All these things, World War effect, First World War effect in India, then Rowlatt Act, which was passed in 1919, then same year Jallianwala Bagh tragedy or Jallianwala Bagh incident, and the Khilafat movement also. The Muslim leaders, Muhammad Ali, Shaukat Ali, founded a Khilafat committee in Bombay, and they were also against the Britishers. So this is the background behind non-cooperation movement. In the same way, and we should know also what was the background behind what were the situations before the beginning of civil disobedience movement. I have mentioned here CDM, civil disobedience movement. We have also learned in third video about the backdrop or background, or what are the situations before CDM or civil disobedience movement. The effect of Great Depression of 1929 and the failure of Simon Commission, and Gandhiji's 11 demands were also not fulfilled. And we can also mention INC session at Lahore, the demand of Purna Swaraj. So point number 2, we must mention what were the situations before non-cooperation movement, what were the situations in India before the beginning of civil disobedience movement. And point number 3, children, you are supposed to mention about which category people participated mostly the non-cooperation movement and also a civil disobedience movement. Non-cooperation movement was actively participated by middle class people from cities and peasants from village areas, rural areas, and also plantation workers, those who worked in tea gardens in Assam and other places. And tribal communities also participated in non-cooperation movement. Alluri Sitaram Raju's name is also mentioned when we talk about tribals. And because of the Khilafat issue, large-scale Muslims participated in non-cooperation movement. It was a joint movement, Khilafat and non-cooperation movement against the Britishers. But what about civil disobedience movement? In the civil disobedience movement, children, mostly this was participated by rich businessmen from cities, and of course peasants were there, rich peasants, okay, from rural areas or countryside, you call it, and there was less Muslim participation, okay, during the civil disobedience movement. That also we mentioned. Why did the Muslims, they lost interest? That they were apprehensive that their presence in the Hindu majority would hamper a lot, and for that reason the Muslim League demanded for separate electorates and also a two-nation theory that we discussed in our previous video. So point number 4 is about, you need to mention in point number 4, in which year non-cooperation movement came to an halt. So it is mentioned here, withdrawal in 1922. So in 1922, Gandhiji called off non-cooperation movement because of the violence occurred in Chauri Chaura. Because of the Chauri Chaura incident, as you know, there 22 policemen were burned by the angry mob, the protesters. Chauri Chaura is in Gorakhpur region in Uttar Pradesh. So because of this violent activities by the protesters, by the Indians, the police station was burnt, 22 policemen were also killed. So Gandhiji called off the non-cooperation movement in 1922. But what about civil disobedience movement? Because civil disobedience movement started with Gandhiji's Salt March in March 12, 1930. But here what happens in between, Gandhiji was invited by Irwin, and some kind of agreement was signed between Gandhiji and Viceroy Irwin. This is known as Gandhi-Irwin Pact. As per Gandhi-Irwin Pact, Gandhiji agreed to go for second roundtable conference in London to discuss with the British officials regarding the further course of action by Indians. So main point, whatever I have explained, in short, the main point would be withdrawal of non-cooperation movement in 1922 because of Chauri Chaura incident. And then for civil disobedience movement, withdrawal in 1931 because of Gandhi-Aryan Pact. So point number 5, children, this is about a very important thing, women's participation. When we talk about women's participation in non-cooperation movement, women's participation was not that much. Very less less number of women participated. But when we talk about civil disobedience movement in 1930, a large number of women participated in civil disobedience movement. And the last point, children, when this movement was going on and what exactly was happening, I mean to say the course of the movement, when this movement, non-cooperation movement was going on, what were the situations? What was the scenario? And during that time, non-cooperation movement period, large number of students, teachers, lawyers, those who were working in those British organizations or government, all of them participated in non-cooperation movement. Large-scale participation was there. And what else was happening? Foreign goods, during that time, foreign goods, especially clothes, foreign-made clothes were boycotted, rejected. And foreign-made clothes, Manchester-made clothes were burned, and liquor shops were picketed. So this was the scenario during non-cooperation movement. But what about civil disobedience movement? During the civil disobedience movement, the main issue was Gandhiji's that SALT law was broken. The law was imposed by the British government in India, by the colonial rule, by the colonial government. Important thing which happened during that time, SALT law was broken or violated. And there were protest movements, protests in front of government salt factories. It was very essential product for our Indians, and they were not allowed to make salt. So Gandhiji's salt march was against the salt law imposed by the Britishers. And like non-cooperation movement, during the civil disobedience movement also, foreign goods were boycotted, clothes, foreign-made clothes, Manchester-made clothes were burnt, liquor shops were picketed. And peasants, large number of peasants, especially rich peasants, they refused to pay taxes. And also the tribal people, decided to violate the forest laws. They did not want to pay taxes or revenue. So all these points, children, you need to mention for this question. The question was about the differences between non-cooperation movement and the civil disobedience movement. So coming back to the point number 1, I have explained about all these points, but in short, the beginning of in which year these two movements started or began, which years. So January 1921 for non-cooperation movement you can mention, and March 12, 1930, that civil disobedience movement. And the background situation, like the situation in the World War, First World War, Rowlatt Act, Jallianwala Bagh tragedy, all these issues were responsible, or that all these issues led to non-cooperation movement. Whereas Great Depression, Economic Depression of 1929, Simon Commission failure, then Gandhiji's 11 demands were rejected. All these issues led to the civil disobedience movement. Point number 3, the participation. Middle class people, peasants from village areas, countryside or rural areas, plantation workers, tribals, okay, and large scale Muslim people also participated in this like non-cooperation movement. And whereas for civil disobedience movement, rich businessmen from cities, rich peasants from rural areas, and Muslim participation was less. And point number 4, you should mention about which year this non-cooperation movement was withdrawal. That was the year 1922. Similarly, for civil disobedience movement, it was 1931 because of Gandhi-Oren Pact. And women's participation was not that much during non-cooperation movement, but large-scale participation of women was there during civil disobedience movement or during Gandhiji's Salt March. And final point, children, need to mention what is happening. Large number of students, teachers, lawyers participated in non-cooperation movement, along with foreign goods boycotted, and foreign-made clothes were banned. Liquor shops were picketed. And these were the common things during the civil disobedience movement, but very important issue was salt law was broken or violated, and forest laws were also violated. Peasants refused to pay taxes, okay, and the protests were there in front of government salt factories, because salt was the very essential commodity. Indians demanded that they could make their own salt, but they were not allowed to. That's all the 6 points, children, you are supposed to mention for your 5 marks. I hope you have understood the concept, the question, and this is also important question. This question was also repeated in board papers. So with this, we have learned about this particular question at length. I hope, children, you liked it, and if you liked it, please like the video and do not forget to subscribe my channel. Thank you, everyone. Bye.